What if I told you that the very trait you've been taught is virtuous, humility, is silently destroying your life? Think about the people in your own life, the ones who got the opportunities, the recognition, the success. Were they always the most talented? Or were they the ones who weren't afraid to claim their space? I remember a story from a friend who worked in advertising. She told me about two copywriters in her agency. One was genuinely brilliant, had won awards at her previous job, could write copy that made you feel things you didn't know you could feel, but in meetings, she'd present her ideas tentatively. I was thinking maybe we could try this approach, with a question mark at the end, waiting for validation. The other copywriter was good, not great, but he'd walk into pitch meetings like he'd already won. "Here's what we're going to do," he'd say. No question marks, just certainty. Guess who became creative director? The brilliant one eventually left the industry, convinced she wasn't good enough. The confident one is now running his own agency, still producing good work, not great work, but selling it like it's genius. That's the confidence paradox in action. Talent without visibility is like a masterpiece hanging in a dark room. It might be brilliant, but if no one can see it, does it matter? Now, I can hear some of you thinking, but I don't want to be fake. I don't want to be one of those people who talks a big game and can't back it up. And that's exactly the trap. You're so afraid of being a fraud that you're hiding your real capabilities. You're so worried about overpromising that you're massively underrepresenting what you can actually do. Here's a different way to think about it. Confidence isn't lying about your abilities. Confidence is being honest about them in a world that's trained you to downplay them. If you've worked 10 years in your field, you're not being arrogant when you call yourself an expert. You're being accurate. If you've solved a problem that others couldn't, you're not bragging when you say you're good at what you do. You're stating a fact. The question isn't whether you're good enough to be confident. The question is whether you're brave enough to stop pretending you're not. And here's where this gets really interesting, because once you understand this paradox, once you see how it's been holding you back, you can't unsee it. Every time you catch yourself downplaying your achievements, you'll recognize it for what it is. A defense mechanism, a learned behavior, a cage you've built for yourself. But knowledge without action is just entertainment. So let's talk about how to actually break free. Here are the 5 specific strategies that will transform how you show up in the world without turning you into someone you're not. Strategy 1, reframe confidence as service. This is the mindset shift that changes everything. Stop thinking about confidence as self-promotion. Start thinking about it as service. When you hide your talents, you're not being humble. You're withholding value from people who need it. When you downplay your expertise, you're not being modest. You're making it harder for the right opportunities to find you. Let's say you're amazing at solving a specific type of problem. Maybe you're incredible at calming anxious clients. Maybe you can debug code faster than anyone on your team. Maybe you have a gift for making complex ideas simple. When you hide that ability, when you brush it off as nothing special, you're not just hurting yourself. You're hurting every person who could have benefited from your gift but couldn't find you because you were too busy being humble. Confidence reframed as service isn't about ego. It's about impact. It's about saying, I have this ability and I'm going to make sure the people who need it know I exist. So here's your first action step. Write down 3 things you're genuinely excellent at. Not things you're learning, not things you're okay at, things you're genuinely, measurably better than most people at, and then practice saying them out loud. I'm excellent at managing complex projects under tight deadlines. I'm exceptionally skilled at building relationships with difficult clients. I'm one of the best analysts in my field. Feel uncomfortable? Good. That discomfort is the cage breaking open. Strategy 2. Document everything. Here's a brutal truth. Your memory is terrible, especially when it comes to your own achievements. You'll forget the wins. You'll remember the failures. That's just how human brains work. So you need to build an external memory system. Every time you accomplish something, write it down. Every compliment you receive, save it. Every problem you solve, document it. Create what I call a victory log. It can be a simple document, a journal, a note on your phone. But every week, write down at least 3 wins. They don't have to be massive. Helped a colleague solve a problem they'd been stuck on for days. Delivered a presentation that got positive feedback. Finished a project ahead of schedule. Why does this matter? Because when that opportunity comes, when someone asks, tell me about a time you excelled under pressure, you won't have to scramble to remember. You'll have a database of evidence that proves you're exactly as capable as you need to claim to be. And here's the deeper benefit. When you regularly acknowledge your wins, your brain starts to recognize patterns. You start to see that you're not just getting lucky, you're consistently delivering value. And that recognition shifts how you show up. It's not fake confidence, it's evidence-based confidence. Strategy 3. Practice strategic visibility. Here's where most humble people completely fail. They think good work speaks for itself. It doesn't. Good work whispers. You need to amplify it. But here's the key. You don't have to become a shameless self-promoter. You just need to become strategically visible. What does that mean? It means understanding that sharing your work isn't bragging, it's communication. When you finish a project, don't just move on to the next thing. Take 5 minutes to share what you learned, what worked, what was challenging. Not in a look how amazing I am way, in a here's what I discovered that might help others way. On LinkedIn, instead of just updating your job title, share insights from your work. Just finished leading a team through a challenging transition. Here are 3 lessons that made the difference. That's not bragging, that's teaching. In meetings, instead of waiting to be called on, contribute early. Not with a question mark at the end of your statement, with a period. Based on my experience with similar projects, here's what I recommend we do. The people who get ahead aren't always the most talented, but they're always the most visible. And visibility is a skill you can learn. Here's your action step. Identify 3 places where your expertise could be visible. Maybe it's speaking up more in team meetings. Maybe it's posting about your work once a week on social media. Maybe it's offering to present at a conference or write an article about something you know deeply. Choose one. Commit to doing it consistently for 3 months. Watch what happens. Strategy 4. Separate identity from outcome. Here's why confident people can handle failure better than humble people. It's not because they don't care. It's because their identity isn't tied to the outcome. When your identity is, I'm someone who works hard and hopes to be good enough someday, every failure confirms your deepest fear. You're not good enough. You never will be. But when your identity is, I'm an expert in my field who sometimes succeeds and sometimes learns, failure becomes data. It's information, not identity. This is crucial. You can be confident about your abilities while being unattached to specific outcomes. In fact, that's the only way sustainable confidence works. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. You control your effort, your preparation, your attitude. You don't control whether you get the job, whether the client says yes, whether your idea gets approved. Confident people focus on what they control. They walk into the interview knowing they're qualified. If they don't get it, it's not because they're not good enough. It's because it wasn't the right fit, or someone else was a better match, or 100 other factors they can't control. This mindset shift is liberating. You can claim your expertise, put yourself out there, take risks without your entire sense of self-worth hanging in the balance. Here's the practice. Before any situation where you need confidence, ask yourself 2 questions. What do I control here? And what outcome am I attached to? If you notice you're attached to a specific outcome, pause, refocus on what you control, your preparation, your authenticity, your effort. Let go of the rest. Strategy 5. Build a confidence tribe. Here's something nobody talks about. Confidence is contagious, and so is self-doubt. If you're surrounded by people who are constantly downplaying their achievements, who compete for who can be the most self-deprecating, who roll their eyes at anyone who dares to claim their success, you will stay small. But if you surround yourself with people who celebrate each other's wins, who encourage each other to take up space, who call out false humility when they see it, you will grow. This doesn't mean abandoning your humble friends. It means being intentional about who you let shape your sense of what's possible. Find at least 2 people. They can be friends, mentors, colleagues, online communities who actively support your confidence. People who, When you share a win, don't say, "Oh, I'm sure you just got lucky." They say, "Of course you did. You're incredible at this." And here's the other side of that coin. Become that person for others. When someone you respect accomplishes something, don't let them downplay it. Say, "No, that's actually amazing. You should be proud of that." By building each other up, you create a culture where confidence isn't seen as arrogance. It's seen as honoring the truth of what people are capable of. Share this with someone who needs to see these signs, someone who's been playing small for too long, someone whose brilliance the world needs to see. And if you're getting value from this, if this is challenging the way you've been thinking about yourself, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, because we're going to keep exploring these ideas that nobody else wants to talk about, the uncomfortable truths that actually change lives. Now, let's bring this home. So where does this leave us? Let me take you back to Sarah, the software engineer from the beginning of this story. About 2 years after she watched her less qualified colleague get promoted, something shifted. She didn't suddenly become arrogant. She didn't transform into someone unrecognizable, but she started doing something different. She started documenting her wins. She started speaking up in meetings without a question mark at the end of her sentences. She started introducing herself as an expert, because after 10 years, that's what she was. And within 6 months, she was approached by a competitor. They'd heard about her work, not because it suddenly got better, but because she finally made it visible. She's now a lead architect at a company that values her expertise, making twice what she was making before, working on projects that actually challenge her. The work was always there, the talent was always there. What changed was her willingness to stop hiding it. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. This is about becoming who you actually are, without the layers of false humility that have been suffocating your potential. Real humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking about yourself less. It's being so secure in your abilities that you don't need constant validation, but you also don't shrink from recognition when it comes. Real confidence isn't believing you're better than others. It's knowing your value without needing to diminish anyone else to prove it. The confidence paradox is this: the more you own your greatness, the less you need to prove it. The more you claim your expertise, the less threatened you are by others who are also excellent. The more visible you make your achievements, the less you worry about recognition. Okay, because you're not waiting for permission anymore. You're not waiting to be discovered. You're not sitting in the dark hoping someone will turn on the light. You are the light, and the world needs you to stop hiding it. Think about where you'll be in 5 years. If nothing changes, if you keep downplaying your achievements, if you keep waiting to be ready enough, if you keep letting louder, less qualified people speak over you, you'll be exactly where you are now, maybe a little more bitter, definitely more frustrated, watching opportunities go to people who simply weren't afraid to claim them. Now just imagine where you could be if you made the shift today, if you started documenting your wins, if you practice strategic visibility, if you reframed confidence as service, if you built a tribe that lifts you up instead of keeping you small. In 5 years, you could be leading the projects you're truly meant to lead, working with the people who really value your expertise, making the impact you're absolutely capable of making. Not because you became someone different, but because you finally stopped pretending to be less than you are. There's a line from Marianne Williamson that's been quoted so often it's become a cliche, but that's because it's true. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. The world doesn't need more humble people apologizing for their existence. It needs more people brave enough to claim their gifts and use them fully. You know that thing you're amazing at, the skill that just comes naturally to you, the problem you can solve better than almost anyone. That's not an accident, that's not luck, that's your assignment, your contribution, your purpose. And every day you hide it because you're afraid of seeming arrogant is a day you're withholding your gift from people who desperately need it. So here's my final challenge to you. After you finish watching this video, I want you to do something uncomfortable. I want you to reach out to one person. It could be a mentor, a colleague, a potential client, someone whose opinion you respect, And I want you to tell them about something you're excellent at, not something you're working on, not something you're learning, something you're genuinely, measurably excellent at. And when they respond positively, because trust me, they will, I want you to notice how you feel. Notice the urge to downplay it. Notice the instinct to say, oh, it's nothing. And instead of giving in to that instinct, I want you to simply say, thank you. I've worked hard to develop that skill. That's it. No false humility, no self-deprecation, just acknowledgement of the truth. And then notice what happens. Notice how the sky doesn't fall. Notice how they don't think less of you. Notice how actually they probably respect you more for owning your abilities. That's the moment everything changes. That's when you realize that the cage you've been living in was never locked. You were just afraid to push the door open. The confidence paradox resolves itself when you understand this. You don't become confident by achieving more. You achieve more by choosing to be confident about what you've already accomplished. The talent is already there, the expertise is already there, the value is already there. All that's missing is your willingness to claim it. So stop being humble in a way that serves no one. Stop playing small in a world that needs you big. Stop waiting for permission that you've never needed and will never receive. Your brilliance is not arrogance. Your expertise is not ego. Your confidence is not conceit. It's simply the truth finally being told. Now go tell it. If this video changed how you see yourself, if it gave you permission to finally claim your space, drop a comment and let me know. What's one thing you're going to stop being falsely humble about? Your story might be the permission someone else needs to hear. And before you go, remember, the world is watching, not waiting for you to be perfect, waiting for you to be present, fully, powerfully, unapologetically. Don't make it wait any longer.